This part of the video was recorded after the next part, but I want to get this out of the way first, and then we can talk about some of the other cool stuff that this thing may or may not need. So you can't buy something that's 65 years old and expect everything to be perfect. Just get used to that if you're going to be buying old stuff. Doesn't matter where you buy it, doesn't matter what you pay, there's going to be something wrong with it. But fortunately, I pretty much have this thing at this point almost entirely gone through. Everything is exactly perfect and working and happy. And well, anyway, I want to talk about the phonograph part for a second, the turntable. Now, when I say phonograph, turntable, I consider the phonograph to be the entire unit, whereas the turntable is just the turntable. That's just my own method of operation. Now, in my last video, I had gone through the turntable. We went through and cleaned and lubricated everything, got everything nice and smooth and running seemingly quite well, with one exception. Now, let me demonstrate what I mean by that, and I'll tell you why it's not a problem. Notice how there are a couple of mechanical triggers that help the phonograph, the record player, the turntable, determine what size record you're playing, whether you're playing a 7-inch, a 10-inch, or a 12-inch record. This button here is your 10-inch record sensor. Now, that gets triggered if you've got a 12-inch record. This one over here is your 12-inch record sensor. If you have this device on there, on the spindle shaft to play 45s, I believe that no, that doesn't matter, because whether it has, sorry about that. I didn't mean to say that. If neither of these are triggered, it assumes a 7-inch single. Make sense? Okay. So let's go ahead and put a 12-inch record on there. Now, this turntable is designed to be used completely automatically. It was not intended to be used manually. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So, to start a record, you throw it on, you drop your record changer arm over, and then you press or turn it on. You get the motor spinning, set your motor speed. Actually, you should do that first. There we go. Turn it on. And I already triggered it. I hit it too far. Now watch this. Oh, you missed it. You blink and you miss it. What you missed was the fact that the record changer. Now watch this. We're gonna run auto stop. There we go. What you missed was how the record changer, or how the record, tapped this flag at just the right spot, at the right point in the operation of the turntable, to trigger the tone arm drop location to be at the outermost point. I was mistaken. I was mistaken, and I will credit V Westlife for correcting me on this. Now, V Westlife on YouTube, if you don't follow him and you're into phonographs, you should be. The guy knows his stuff. He really does. He eats, sleeps, and breathes technology, really. Mostly music equipment. Most of his videos are centered around turntables and cassette decks and CD. That's his thing, and he knows his stuff. And what he told me was, in one of the comments he made, is how when the record is, this will make sense in a minute, that this flag right here is how it determines the drop point for a 12-inch record. And I'm thinking to myself, because I've watched it in operation multiple times. Let me show you what I mean. So the record's already loaded. We're going to put the tone arm, or the record stack arm. We're going to move that over. Now I'm going to get the motor spinning. Okay. Then I'm going to hit the reject button. At no point in time does this flag move out. And I'm thinking I was incorrect. See, look at where it started. It started in the 10-inch position. The 10-inch position. Like, it's got to be broken. Because neither did... I guess I did not fully understand how this mechanism worked. So, let's explain it. As the record is dropping, it goes like that. This is exaggerated, but it's a very small movement. Blink it and you missed it. I mean, really, it's just a very quick... And it only happens at a very specific time based on the position of the cam gear. So that leads us to this records player sucks at playing records manually, because this is kind of cumbersome. It's awkward. There's no arm to pick this up. You have to kind of do this, and it's awkward. It's not really refined. It works, but it's not refined. Now, let's do that. A modern record player, or even a audiophile grade record player, or something decent, now to make it auto stop, that's what you got to do. That's the other thing, is if this record stack arm is not in position, in the lowered position, it will not auto stop like a modern record player would. So if I just started it manually, this is what's going to happen. So let's get it into the lead out groove. Look at what it does. It just stays there. It'll wear a hole through the record before it stops. So that's why this record changer isn't great for playing, if I want to play one disc and I want to do it manually, it's not designed for that. So don't use it that way. If you want to play one disc, just set it up like that and hit the start button. So watch this. Watch very carefully. See? You missed it. It's like that. And that is enough for it to trigger the cam gear. I think there's a couple of different moving parts on that cam gear that it triggers. And it's just like that. Now, if I put a 45 on there, neither button is tripped. I only have one 45. I gotta start buying, it's funny, 45s, I'm not even seeing these anywhere. I'm not seeing them for sale in any of my thrift stores. I never see them. Where did all the 45s go? Of course, you need that adapter. Thankfully, we have this adapter. But on the 45, which is a 7-inch disc, now this is a neat little feature. It's not a feature, it's kind of a bug, if anything. But I can set it to continuously repeat that record. Because if I do this, right, and there's no record, so there's no record in the stack. So if I leave the arm down, it will stop. But if I do this, it just repeats the record. Pretty cool, huh? Or is it a bug? Is it a feature? I don't know. But bottom line, and which is where my concern was, it is running correctly. It is running perfectly fine. So now, what about 16 RPM Seberg background disc musics, or background music discs, like this one. Yes, I bought a bunch of these. My goal was to figure out a way to play these records in a stack, just as you would a normal record changer. So I could just set it to play all day long, 45 minutes per side. That's a good amount of music. So we set it to 16 RPM. I don't have the hub adapters. I ordered some from a gentleman who sells them on eBay. They're a little pricey, but I figured, what the hell? Here's a guy trying to make a few bucks with a 3D printer, and I'm gonna let him. I tried finding the STL file for these little adapters that he makes, but he probably made it himself, and they're not on like Thingiverse or anything. They're not very common either. There is an adapter that you can actually you can make one yourself out of a piece of wood and a hole saw, or you can there's a few different. You could design your own, or you can download the one on Thingiverse, which is just a block of plastic. Would not allow you to play them using a record changer, which, as I'm learning, is probably not going to be reasonably possible. Let me explain. So this is a 10-inch record, or 9-inch record, sorry. It is a 9-inch record. A 10-inch record would trigger this. But sadly, no. There's a way around this. What I could do, if I had a big enough 3D printer bed, I could print an outer ring that just brings it from a 9-inch to a 10-inch record, and it would trigger this. Maybe not. No, because then it would land outside of that zone, so that wouldn't be a good idea. The preferred record changer for these is a Colaro Magnavox. I forget the model, but the Colaro Magnavox turntable is the one that folks who play these prefer to use, because those don't use these mechanical trip levers. They use a mechanism that I believe is similar to BSR's, where it taps the record edge before dropping the it taps the edge while it's still on the platter, or on the stack, and then it determines the record size that way, and it can compensate for odd-sized records like this 9-inch record. So let's go ahead and see what happens when I try to. I want to play it. All right. So what we'll do is we'll put it. It's going to assume that it's a 7-inch record, like a 45. So let's turn it on. It will start though. It will work, but it cuts off the first 2 inches of record. So if I were to play these in a stack, the record changer is going to assume they're a 45, and this is what happens. It's playing at 16 RPM, so things are moving a little slow. But look at that. It cuts off half the record. Sounds pretty good though, even though this is the wrong needle. So I'm just rolling ideas around in my head. I mean, I could potentially maybe. Ooh, I have an idea. What if I did this? What if let's just see what it does. I'll put you guys right there. I'm gonna try to trigger it into thinking it's a 10-inch record. So I'm gonna put some pressure on this button. Yeah, it lands right outside the zone. I thought that would happen. So it lands right there. So there is no way to fudge this thing. You have to play these manually, which can be done. It's just not the greatest way to do it. Or you can sacrifice half of each record, and you can still get almost a day's worth of music out of this thing. But you're going to lose half the music, at least. But it'll work. if you put them into individual hub adapters. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is my needle and cartridge fiasco. It's not a fiasco, but this is the last piece of the puzzle. And then, of course, we'll talk about the condition of the amplifier, which, spoiler alert, things aren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. So stay tuned. It's actually looking pretty good. I won't spoil any more, but so when this thing left the factory in Chicago way back in 1957, the record changer anyway, potentially as far back as 57, I don't know for sure, but it would have had either an A-static 81T or an Electro-Voice 56 PowerPoint needle. Now, the thing is, let me get my train of thought here. Neither of those would have been a good choice, or maybe the A-static, but I don't know. Well, you tell me. I looked up the Electro-Voice 56, and that is a 1mm cartridge, or 1mm needle. The 81T is a 0.7, so that would be appropriate for both stereo and mono, whereas the EV would have been appropriate only for, you guessed it, mono. So the needle that I pulled out of this thing, the original one, which is the one that came with it when I bought it, it's still in there. It is a, I believe it is the correct one for stereo. I'm not positive, but here's my train of thought. I ordered this guy. This is an EV61. Now, the EV61 PowerPoint is what I thought was in there, because that's what the internet told me. The internet's not always right. Now, the 61 is definitely a mono-only 1mm. This is not appropriate for stereo. And I put this in there, and it works, but you can tell it's definitely not, it just doesn't quite work that well. It works, but it sounds like shit. That was before I discovered and learned for myself that it was supposed to be a 0.7 stereo-compatible retrofit needle, and that's where this one comes in. This is a fun steel replacement for, I have the booklet here. Here we go. This is an EV66D replacement. PowerPoint phono cartridge. Stereo compatible. This is the one that I believe Westlife told me to buy. Now, I don't fault him for this, because I believe this particular one is defective. Or not defective, but it's aged out. There are materials used in here that are affected by time and usage. This is a brand new needle, and it does not track on any record. As soon as you set the tone arm down, it just skates across. So there is a problem with the composition of this particular one. It is defective. Ay vey. So then I'm thinking, well, okay, I have a third option. I have this. This is a Sonotone 8T cartridge stylus all-in-one assembly. Okay, this is supposed to be the replacement for all of the above. All of the above. This is a stereo compatible. This is a stereo cartridge, and I wired this up for mono use. Now, I made a mortal sin. I knew I was doing this wrong. I didn't care. I just lightly tack soldered some jumper wires to make this a mono cartridge, which is not the right way to do it. You're supposed to use hookup leads, but I did what I did. I don't think I damaged it, but I think it was a bad cartridge to begin with. It was probably old, worn out, and stale. So it worked, it worked, but there was very low audio coming out of it. I mean, it did work though, but it didn't. So either incorrect resistance or incorrect whatever. Okay. So the needle that's in there now, I am convinced that it's already been retrofitted for stereo. I can't tell by looking at it, but I am making that assumption that that particular needle is the correct one for the application. So what I'm going to do, I have reached out to my favorite folks over at turntable.needles.com. I buy from them all the time. That's where I buy all my belts, by the way. They have good products. Their prices are a little high, but their products are good, and that's all that matters. And I'm going to see what they might have in their stock that might do the job. I explained to them what I've got, what the situation is, what I've tried. And I want to make sure that I have at least 2, maybe 3 spare needles before they are completely gone from the stock of every store around. That's where I'm at right now. I want to make sure I have the correct one and that I have multiples of it, because I want this thing to be around for a long time. It's already been around for 65 years. I'd like to see it, kicking around even longer. So that's the saga. Now let's get into the amplifier. So again, clearly everything turned out fine. As you can see, I'm using this thing. I've been playing this all day long, by the way. I think it's okay. All right, let's get on with it. All right, so in this video, we're going to pull the chassis out of this phonograph. First thing we need to do, though, is take these knobs off, which I've been informed are called teacups. I didn't know that. Now I know. You just pull right off. And what's nice is they still have their felt pads. This wasn't exactly a high-end unit for the time, but it wasn't cheap. No, this thing was built pretty well. Even for the time, I'd say it was built pretty damn well. Look at the construction, though. This is 1958, and we're still building cabinets out of solid wood. This is a solid wood cabinet with a veneer. It could be birch. I don't know what species this is. If you know, please put it in the comments. I don't know what the finish is called either, but I've seen a very similar finish on a lot of 1950s relics, but it's been modified, as we discussed in our first video. It's got this switch here that doesn't belong there. Now, this switch looks like it dates back to maybe the 1960s, maybe 70s. So this doesn't belong here. This is not factory. We are removing it. The reason they put the switch in here was so that they could pipe the audio out to a set of household speakers. Why they didn't use the phono jack, I'll never understand, but it has a phono jack for that purpose. I'm going to repair this wiring. It's still in good condition. We're going to desolder that switch, and we're going to heat shrink tube and solder those wires back together. That's my plan. Okay, we got to unplug this right here. These old sets were designed to be serviced. The design for serviceability was a thing that was done up until about the 1970s. When everything went solid state, the thinking was the chassis would last long enough to where nobody would even bother servicing it should the need arise. So the serviceability consideration was no longer a thing, and that's what we have today. Let's see if I'm curious to see if they even bother to solder any of this. I do not use electrical tape in almost every situation. If there's a way I can get away with not using electrical tape, I use shrink tubing, but that may not have been a thing. That may not have been available back in the 70s. So they did not solder these connections. So we're going to pull these wires apart, and we'll do something about it on the bench. I believe there was supposed to be a plug on this wire harness. So Yeah, I'm thinking that there would have been a plug originally, and that plug is long gone. So I'm going to consider what options I have, and maybe we'll come up with a better idea. But there should have been, yeah, the wires are still long enough, so you want there to be a plug so that you can remove the chassis easily. And it's only held in by 2 screws. And it looks like it's a weird size screw they use too. I'll have to come up with a better tool to see what size these are. Well, this screwdriver did latch onto this one. So maybe that one's not no, about the same size. The chassis should slide out. Now, my hypothesis is that this radio had been serviced. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. It sounds way too good to be something that was neglected for all these years. I mean, it really does. It sounds way too good. And I just don't, I'm not sure I buy the notion that it is all original. So, all right. All right. So I got the 2 screws out. The whole thing should just slide. And let's see what we got here. I got the Sam's Photo Fact for this. An original copy, I might add. That's just hitting. All right, that's hitting there. So I gotta be real careful sliding this sucker out. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I see what's going on there. So as of right now, I can tell it's all original. She's never been touched. I don't believe it. This thing has never been touched. All original wiring, original caps, resistors. It's all original. That is just nuts. That is just nuts. And the smell. Oh, it's heavenly. If you don't know what that smell is, you don't know what you're missing. It's a thing. It's that old radio smell. Now this line cord, yeah, it's a little iffy. That must be our rectifier tube right there. That's where all the power's going in. And it goes through the rectifier first, and then it goes through the transformer. A lot of dust here, but look at that. Let's pull it out the whole way. Okay, so this is just crazy. It's crazy how these still work. I don't even know how. 450 volts, 40 microfarad. New Bedford, Mass. Ha! It's not that far from here. Well, relatively not that far from here. Unbelievable. All of these need to be changed. Although, oh, you know, we might be okay. These aren't the wax type. These are, they're ceramic. And they seem to be okay. I don't know if I trust them. But it's these big ones, and this guy right here, this will remain, but we're going to bypass it. Yeah, we're going to leave this one alone, but I want to bypass it. It has multiple capacitors in one canister. $40 microfarad at 400, 40 microfarad at 400, 20 microfarad at 400, and I don't know what minus 40 at 25. Yeah, it's a little, these aren't all original tubes, are they? We've got a Helicrafters in there. We've got an RCA. We've got a couple of Motorola's. So some of the tubes have been replaced. I now have a working tube tester, so I can actually just kind of test them all and make sure they're good. But these guys need to go, even though they still work. We can't keep them. A lot of folks will actually hollow these out and stuff modern capacitors in their place. I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. But this is a very simple mono amp. It really, there's not much to it. Really not. Very simple. Very simple design. Even the tuning pots are nice and clean. We're gonna spray some deoxide in those anyway. But so that's our first look, just to see what's going on. I got 2 transformers. Why do I have 2? Why do I have 2 of these? Why is... interesting. The only tube sets I've worked on only had 1, not 2 transformers. And so this is all new to me. So we got to cut these out, buy new ones. So what are these? 450s? 450 at 40 times 1. Oh, wait a minute. These aren't wax drops. These are... How do these still work? They're aluminum cans with a paper wrapping around them. That's what they are. But they work. 65 years later, they still work, and all of these still work. Maybe we just leave it the hell alone. I mean, really, it does produce good sound. Maybe we leave it alone for now. I'm starting to think that might be the best choice. I don't know. Well, let me at least get a list of what I need to order, and then we'll just pop them in as we get them. I think that's probably a good idea. Yeah, I think so. All right, well, let's see how it goes. On second thought, it just hit me. Some of you more experienced guys may have picked up on this. And it took me a second. Do you know what I'm going to say? Do you know? Anyone? Oh, this is so cool. This amplifier has been repaired a long ass time ago. It has already been repaired. Can you tell how I know? Well, it got me thinking. I'm like, I remember looking up a picture of this chassis. As a matter of fact, I have the Sam's PhotoFact upstairs, and I glanced at it a bit. And I'm like, this stuff doesn't exist in the PhotoFact. So I started digging around here and pulling these away, and then I looked down inside. There's nothing hooked up to this can. There's one wire hooked up to it, and it goes nowhere. It's just, I don't know why it's there, but it looks like, yeah, I thought maybe it was jumped somewhere down the line. But point being, this wire does nothing. This can has already been bypassed, but the repairs were done so long ago. This is what they used. These are not original. That eluded me really fast. And then I'm looking at the values of these. Okay, you got a 450 at 40, a 450 at 40, and a 450 at 20. And I'm like, wait a second. Huh, that's exactly what this was. This unit has been repaired, but it was done probably, oh God, this was probably repaired 40 years, 50 years ago. At least 50 years ago. So now we know. They didn't replace any of these, but we're going to replace these with orange drops. just because we can. They're not expensive. It's just part of the job. I like how they kept this in place, though, because for appearance purposes, that matters. But these old Aerovox caps, these are probably still pretty good. But again, they're at least 50 years old, so we're gonna replace them. Now, I thought about this wire here. What I need to do is find a socket. I need to find a new old stock 2-pin plug. That's it. So I'm gonna go looking for something like that. I'll look at what's available, like an NOS 2-pin plug and socket, and that's going to be for the. And this is for the. This is your speaker out. This is your pilot light. This is your phonograph power in and out. So this powers the phonograph and returns power back to the set. And these wires are all in pretty good shape. The switch. Any date of manufacturer on there? Stackpole. Probably US made. Yep. Underwriter's Lab. That's an old switch. This modification was done a long time ago. Probably when this was done. Where are we going to put our Bluetooth module? I'm serious. I'm putting one in. I haven't decided exactly what method I'm going to use, but I'm going to do it. And it'll probably plug in, or I'll just tap 2 wires off of our audio output, which is our audio input for the phonograph, which is somewhere over here somewhere. Oh, I think it's actually down there. No, wait. It goes through. There it is. Yeah, that's the plug. So, got my solder iron heat up. What? Got my soldering iron heated up. Let's take these wires off. I'm not going to cut any wires. Decided probably not a good idea, because I don't want to screw myself later on. Okay. So I'll just kind of unsolder that. You know what? I'm going to cut it. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh. Ah. That's right. I used to make wiring out of toxic shit. That did not hit well. I'm probably going to die tonight. All right, so we're going to find a plug that's appropriate for this in age and style. And we're going to I'm going to order some caps. Again, I use orange drops. They work well. And we're going to shrink tube the leads so that we don't have any shorts. Thinking, always thinking. Okay. So, this is going to be a brief video. Why don't we make some content? Why don't we clean this chassis up? Make it look pretty. So, we're going to take all the tubes out. And these are the 6V6. I think these are the amplifier tubes, and they should be the same. I'm going to get my tube tester, and we're going to just check them. Check them for integrity. Look at how dirty that is. Now that's an original tube. So these are original amplifier tubes. Yeah, look at that. So we're going to clean those up, and we're going to test them. So this is a Sam's Photo Effect. There's our happy record player. Now this covers the entire series. What do we have? A 5K23. I think we have a 5K23. 5K23B-1. That's what it is. So this is what it's supposed to look like underneath. The knobs. Yeah, knobs this way. So this is the underside. There's what it's supposed to look like. Now, again, I only know that this unit was owned by a radio and TV repairman. I suspect that he might have been the guy who serviced this unit back in the day. And when the owners decided they wanted to move on from it, they sold... What the shit? This tube is cracked. Pretty sure this tube is cracked. We might have to replace this one. And all the print is wearing off of it. So, nice. I'm gonna... and the same thing happened to the RCA tube that was accompanying it. I might have to replace one of those, one or two of those. So we'll have to see. That should not be cracked like that. I don't think that's recommended. Although the crack seems to be limited to... It almost looks like just a bad casting. Huh. So maybe he bought this or took it in as a trade-in. I don't know. Or maybe he bought it new. We don't really know. That information was not given to me. So, all right. So these two tubes, V2 and V1. Let's see. V1 is an AF amplifier. V2 is an AF amp phase inverter. 12 AU7 and a 12 AX7. So we know what they're supposed to be. And 6 V6 GTs, those are supposed to be in there. And yeah, all right, let me set up the tube tester and let's see what these look like. So this is an ICO 666 that I got for free. Somebody had given this to me. I guess it was part of an estate sale and it didn't sell. And I brought it home and immediately realized it didn't work. The problem with this thing was the line adjustment. The line adjustment. You could not get it in spec. So I set it aside, and I was talking to a friend, an older gentleman who used to work. He was an engineer at a nuclear plant, actually. He knows his stuff, and I think he's also a trained electrical engineer. But he actually had the same exact unit. And I'm like, I didn't really think much of it. And then he decided he was going to get his up and running because he needed it for a guitar amplifier that he was restoring. So he found out that I have one, and he's like, hey, do you want me to... I'm fixing mine. You want me to fix yours? And I'm like, sure. Why not? So I gave him the unit to go through, and he went right through it. It just had a couple of bad capacitors, which is what I suspected, and really not much else. I mean, it was actually in pretty good shape. So what we need to do is get this thing set up, get it turned on. So anyway, we ran through and we tested a whole bunch. I had a whole bag of old random tubes, and he tested them all, and they all seemed to be okay, except for one that was bad. So 6 V6 GT. This is convenient. It has it all built in right here. I like this thing, as long as it works. 6 V6. Inside here, there's a giant scroll of paper. It's kind of cool. Hope it doesn't break. That would really suck. Oh, now we're on the other side. STUV 6V6. 6V6. Filament 6.3. Grid voltage 21. Plate is 98. One, two, two, four, five. 1, 2, 2, 4, 5. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. V is 4. S is 1. Okay. So we need to get the line voltage set. So to do that, we just turn this on. Hold down that and adjust it until it zeroes out. Well, it goes right to the middle. There we go. Okay, we've got our line voltage set. We got to give the tube some time to heat up. You can see the filament is starting to glow. And give it a moment to heat up. And we're checking for leak and merit. 3, 4, 5, 8. So 8 underlined should it should pass as good. So, and then leak should be oh, that's HK leak. Never mind. Merit should be 3. So we'll give it a moment to reach temperature. Let's try it. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 8. So 3, 4, 5, 8. Oh, it's good. And then merit should be 3. It doesn't do anything. All right. So that might be a problem, might not be. Okay. So let's pull the tube. We got the exact same tube going back in, so I don't need to change any settings. Okay, I just heard it hum. Do our line voltage check. Good. Make sure that all stays the same. So this little pamphlet tells me what the phono cartridge could be, what it may have been from the factory. So the cartridge and socket assembly that we've got now may not be factory. In fact, I don't think it is. So like I said, I've got a few options. The original part would have been an Electrovoice 56 or an A-Static 81T or TB. So, yeah. Okay, let's do our tests. 3, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, the underline denotes, I don't know what the term is, but we're good. So clear that. Merit comes up to nothing, just as the other one did. All right. Interesting. All right. Now, for our next trick, so at least they're the same. We've got 2 of those little guys. Where did they go? Where did they go? Are they in the chassis? Yeah, they are. So we'll put our push-pull tubes back in. I think they're fine. And it's possible that it's funny how they have two different Motorola Motorola logos. So this rectifier has the old Motorola logo on it, and that may be an NOS part. So they probably, when they built this unit, they were using whatever they had, and they were probably in the transitional phase. I don't have a socket for this one on this unit, or do I? Yeah, I think it'll fit in that one. So let's shut it off. See if it goes in. Yep, it fits. So that one came out of, I know where they came from. So this one came out of this socket here. And according to my layout, that is supposed to be V2. No. V1. Try V1. V1 is a 12AU7. Yeah, I think I wiped away the printing. Whoops. 12AU7. I gotta go scrolling and see if it's in here. 12AU7. 12AJLQTU7. 12AU7. And that covers 3 different tubes. 12.6 on the filament. 40 on the grid. 18 on the plate. Okay. 45121. 45161. Okay. VS 2 and 3. Turn it on. Line check. It's got to go up a little bit. Line voltage in. Tube is warming up. I see it glowing. I see it glowing. Okay. 12AU7. So there's apparently two different possible tubes in that one tube. So we got to check them both. We're going to do the 2, 3, 7, and 8. So we're going to check for the first one. 2, 3, 7, 8 is our first one. So 2, 3, yep. 7, yep. And 8. Looks good. And our merit should be 6. It's not working. It's possible that there may be a problem with the unit. I don't know for sure. So, no, that's something to consider. Yeah, that's good to go. That doesn't seem to be effective here. Now, the other settings, merit of 1, merit of 6, or merit of 1. Not really sure how to... Yeah, interesting. I don't have the owner's manual for this tube tester, but I don't think I'm doing it wrong either, so. But this seems to be pretty consistent. The tube isn't bad. That's really the bottom line. So let's put it back in. And we'll do the second one. The second one, before I pop it in there, is a V2. 12AX7. Same deal. 12.6, 7, 9.3. So filament 12.6. Grid is 7. Plate is 93. Four, 5, 1, 2, 1. 4, 5, 1, 2, 1. 4, 5, 1, 6, 1. 4, 5, 1, 6, 1. 2, 4. Okay. 2, 3, 7, and 8, and 6. Okay, let's put it in. Perfect. Yep. This is checking for shorts. Yep. I think we're good. I think you're supposed to do that. Not supposed to do that. That doesn't do anything. Okay, well, I think we're good. I think our tubes are fine. So it's always a good idea to check things just to make sure. While you're there, while you got the equipment, use it. All right, moving on. Not going to bother with the rectifier. 5Y3GT. Does it even have that in here? 5YG3T. No, no, it doesn't. No, no. 5Y3. Oh, yeah, it does. But I think it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so that was good. Got no issues on the tube side. I'm going to go ahead and clean these pots while I'm here. They're easy to get to. You just spray the stuff right in, lubricate and clean. Shut our tube tester down. And we'll just go ahead and spray these while we're here. And then what we'll do at a later date in the future, in the year 2000, we're going to go ahead and I can't get into these two, the two tone pots, but that's fine. Nice. Okay, enough is enough. Until then, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Okay, this is what we need right here. This mounts in the chassis, like the original one did. There's a couple different options. They're $40. It's like a beer can. And that's going to be a direct replacement for the original. I was not able to find what I'm looking for in a standard, not anything of any legitimacy anyway. I found plenty of motor start run relay capacitors that met these specs here, but nothing of note. We're not going to replace any of the ceramic capacitors. I've decided that they're going to stay right where they are. We're just going to replace those three. They are aged out for sure, even though they still function. So we're going to do something with that. But we're going to have to spend a little bit more than I had hoped. And we're going to have to get something like this. You got these 450. You need a 400, 40, 40, 30, 20. That's, yeah, microfarad. So this is, I think, what we're going to need. The Mallory specs. Okay, so the original Mallory part number, which is listed here, is... So the original Mallory part number, FP430. So let's find one that matches. So I'm going to have to figure out FP430. Let me write that down. And we'll try to find a match for it. So this is what they call a multi-section. I didn't mention that earlier. It's a multi-section cap, so it has multiple caps in one. I think that's... So let's see if this is going to fit the bill. It doesn't have an exact cross-reference, but you've got the mounting clamps, you've got the base plate. Or we could just leave it alone. I'm thinking about it right now. Trust me. I'm thinking about it. Just leave it alone. It runs fine. Yeah, I think we're going to just leave it the fuck alone. But I do know, I'm glad to see that there is an option if we decide to go nuclear and just restore it. This is a company that, by the way, Antique Electronic Supply, they supply parts for guitar amplifier restoration. So you know this cat means business if that's what it came out of or what it's designed for. No measurements are available. Do we just buy it and see? Get the correct, buy the optional base plate and just hope it works. I'd rather not go that far with it if I don't have to. I mean, it is working. I could test the existing caps for ESR, but my ESR meter is not working very well, so I'm not sure I want to bother with that. But it's good to know that there's options, like really good options. But there are no, you can't buy those, you can buy them, but they're not the same as what's in there now. You can buy a similar part, but it's made in China, and it's a crapshoot. They don't seem to be leaking at all, so I think this point. Just leave it the hell alone, right? It's working fine, and yeah. All right, so rather than order plugs, I decided to use these bullet connectors. I mean, who's gonna know? But it's all mounted back in. We're gonna just leave it alone for now. I am not ready to order one of those multi-layer, what did I say that was? Combination cap or whatever, to replace this thing right here. But it is nice to know that that is an option in 2023. We can actually make it more original, or period correct, if you will, than they even could have done back in the day. So anyway, we're going to button this thing up. I'm going to put the cover back on, and we're just going to enjoy it. Put a new cartridge and needle in, and just use it. I think it's safe to use. I mean, all of those ceramic capacitors, I don't think they need to be replaced, so we're going to leave those alone. I don't hear any humming or anything unusual in the audio. It sounds clean. We just cleaned the pots, tested the tubes, put it back in and run it. And that's all for now. And stay tuned for any updates.